Yep. Good morning, everyone. So last session we discussed about two important things. Concepts. We learned about what is morphism, and we learned about inheritance and templates. Templates is nothing but abstraction. We discussed about how to handle them. So one more important, we will see something about generics. Already I told you modules also, no? How we can use modules, right? Another important concept is generics. So as I told you, what are generics? Nothing but actually generics represents type safe members. Generic represents type safe members. What is meant by type safe? Generic means type safe. What is meant by type safe? Type safe means initial data type is unknown. Initial data type is unknown. And based on the value supplied, so based on the value initialized or assigned, it will be strongly typed. Initial data type is unknown, but once you know the data type, it will be strongly typed. I told you what is problem in any. The problem in any type is it will accept any type of value. So we need to make it open for any type of value, but once you know the type, it should not accept any another type. So where we use this in real-time scenarios, I will tell you one example we will see. Actually, generics can be used for, you can use generic for class, you can use for property, and you can also use for parameters. You can use for methods. That means you can have a generic class, you can have a generic property, you can have generic parameters, and you can have generic methods. So generic can be used for any of these. But some rules also there, we have to learn those rules. Let's see one real-time scenario where we need this concept. One simple example I will show you. See. So general example for this. So where we need generics and where generics are actually used. See. Suppose I will give you a simple concept. Suppose you have developed an application and usually you may be using different technologies, Java, .NET, Python, anything. Now your technology is building an app, and this app have to communicate with some database. It must communicate with the database. In different situations, database can be various. You can have database like Oracle or MySQL or SQL Server or MongoDB, like this, so many can be there. Now, in order to connect with a different database, actually what we have to do is, generally these technologies will provide a library. This library actually contains database drivers. Am I right? Usually you might have learned database communication. If not, you will learn later how your technology communicates with database. For that, we need database drivers. Some technologies will call them as data providers. By using providers, drivers, we communicate. For that, actually, now we have a class. We designed a class called database. Now this database class have to communicate with the database. But we don't know which database they will use. We need to keep our library in such a way that it should work for any database. Suppose you designed 4 classes. One class for Oracle, one class for MySQL, one class for SQL Server, another class for MongoDB. Then developer have lot of complexity. A developer have to remember hundreds of classes. That means to communicate with different database, he need to remember different approaches. One for Oracle, one for MySQL. It should not be like that. Now the question is, can you design a class in such a way that it can work for any database? Only one class. That means instead of creating, earlier we used to do that. Even now, several technologies do that. Even now, some technologies have different classes for different database. But now, in the modern generation, we don't want like that. Now already, majority of your technologies are transforming. They are reducing the library. They are making the library modular. They are making the library lightweight. So they are designing libraries in such a way that one class can handle many things. So now the requirement is actual what is previous situation. To communicate with different database, we need different classes. But now we can design one class which can work for any database. Let's see how we can do that. This is possible with the help of generics. How? Let's see. Here I am creating, let's create one simple index. Yeah, here I am just creating an interface. This is Oracle. Oracle is an interface. I will give just Oracle for interface prefix. And you know that your technologies will teach you that to connect with every database, you need a different connection string. I hope you know that. Your technologies uses different connection strings to connect with different database. For example, Oracle connection string contains user name. Username is string type. It contains some password, which is a string type. It contains some database, that is a string type, like this. For example, we have MySQL. MySQL have a different connection string. It will have like host. It is a string type. It have user, which is a string type. We have password, that is also string type. We have database, this is also string type, like this. Now, for example, we have an interface MongoDB, MongoDB. Actually, MongoDB uses an URL to connect. It is just a string type, only this. Now, I need to design a class in such a way that it can take any database. And once you mention that you should work for MySQL, that class must be working only for MySQL. That means initially a class is designed to work for any database. And once you tell which database, then it will be strongly typed only for the database. That means here what we are doing is we are designing a class called database. And this database class should be open for working with any database. In that case, we have to make it as a generic type. Generic type is defined by using a angle braces T, that is type. Actually, we write type. We can use XYZ, anything, doesn't matter. Just traditionally, in the angle braces, it defines data type. That is the reason we have an habit of writing T. You can write anything you want. But whatever you write there, it refers to type, data type. That means now class is a generic type. Now in the class, we are designing public, a connection string. Connection string is a property. This will be the generic type. That means that is defined as generic type. That is the generic type. Initializer, that means it is not having any initializer. That means we don't have any initializer. That means, for example, I defined as null. Here we are configuring type as what? Null. Null is nothing but generally what we are doing. We are saying that we don't know the type as of now. Later when you define the type, it will work for the type. A property can be generic type. A method can be generic type. A method also can be generic type. That means what you can do here, we can configure a method like connect. Now this connect have to use a generic type. It is a generic type method. Now this is a generic type method. Into that we can pass different type of values. As of now we are not doing it. As of now just I am showing you a generic class and a generic property. We just have a generic class and property. What we are doing here is we are creating simple. Actually class can be generic, method can be generic. Two different examples I will show you. So here we are creating a method called connect. This is a general void method. What it should do is it should print these details, connection string details. That means, so we will use a simple for var property in and this dot connection string. We are accessing the connection string and we are printing it. That means console.log. We are printing the property. Here we will print property and we have to print its value. Value is printed like this. This dot connection string of property. Then it will get its value and print. This is how generally in JavaScript You can read the keys and values from an object. From an object, we can read the keys and values by using this technique. Generally, you might have learned in JavaScript. For that, we use for in operator. JavaScript for in operator is used for reading all the properties, right? Now, this is generally database class. Now, in an application, you have to connect with Oracle. Then what we do is LET, we are creating an Oracle object which uses database class. Into this database class, it's a generic type. Into that, we will pass iOracle. We will pass iOracle. When we pass iOracle into the memory, now the complete database class is working for Oracle. And now you access oracle.connection string. You can see this connection string is of type Oracle. You can see the connection string is of type Oracle. So it is of type Oracle. It is an Oracle connection string. We haven't mentioned that. We designed connection string empty. We haven't mentioned for which database it should work, but it is now working for Oracle. That means now what are the values you need to pass into it? You have to pass the values. What are the values? As per the Oracle connection string, what are the values? So you see it is showing error. Why? Because it is saying that it is missing username, password and database, because Oracle needs those. I will use username Scott. I will use password some tiger. I will use some database is empdb. That's working fine. Now I have to print the connection oracle.connect. It will connect and print. That means now this class is working for Oracle. Suppose in later some situation, so I will just give a heading here, console.log. I will just put here a line, Oracle connection. Just I am giving some message, okay, like this. Now here later my application have to work with MySQL. That means I want to work with MySQL. If I have to work with MySQL, I don't need a different class. The same class can work for MySQL also. That means LET MySQL is equal to new database. Into that, I will pass MySQL. Then it will be complete database. MySQL connection string will be, this time it is MySQL type connection string. That means the class is changing its behavior. The property is changing its behavior. Now this time it will not accept username, because username is Oracle connection string. This is MySQL. MySQL have its own connection string. Like it will have host like local host. It will have like user is like root. We have like password is like 1, 2, 3, 4. We have like database is like studb something. Now we have to print MySQL.connect. It will connect with MySQL. So now we are using another console.log. I will print here. This is Mongo connection, MongoDB. And I need to create a class to communicate with MongoDB. That means LET Mongo client is equal to new database. And this will be iMongoDB type. In that case, now Mongo client dot connection string, it will be MongoDB connection string. It will not accept any host or anything. It will have only one URL. So URL like some MongoDB :127.001:27017. This is actually Mongo connection string. And we have Mongo client.connect. So it will connect. One class is working for different situations. So how you can build a such lightweight library that you will not overload hundreds of classes for 100 functionalities. So that means you need to design a very compact library. In the modern generation, your legacy libraries are no longer valid. Legacy libraries means very huge libraries. Your Java, your .NET have changed from past few years. I hope you have learned in latest versions of Java and .NET that they made the libraries modular. Earlier, few years back, Java uses a legacy library. Few years back, .NET uses a legacy library. Now recently, Java, .NET are using modular libraries. What is legacy library? Legacy library means an entire library is loaded even to handle a small operation. An entire library is loaded even to handle a small operation. That's not good. Load only the library that is required for that situation. Only the library that is required for the situation. We call this as modular library. Modular is very much now regular in all modern technologies. They have introduced and they are using modular library. That means build a compact one. Don't put lot of things. Earlier, in order to connect with the databases, you need different classes. But now they are reducing. They are making as much as possible with less number of classes. You can communicate with more number of database. They are reducing the number of providers. Actually, earlier we have data providers like OLEDB, ODBC. I hope you learn data drivers providers. They have reduced this. Now let's run this and see. I will run this index and see here. So we will open this index location. This is tsc index.ts. And we have a node index.js. And it will get all the details. So Oracle connection, MySQL connection, MongoDB connection. We written a simple logic for designing class and property which can work for a different situation. It is a kind of polymorphism also. That means a single component have multiple behaviors. That means you are managing to design such components. So this is one concept of how we can use generics. This is an example for that. So this is an example. Yeah, let me paste that. Copy this example. This is an example for it. This is the program for how we can use generic class and generic property. As I told you, we can have generic methods, generic parameters also. A method can be generic. Sometimes what we do is here. This is one technique, means entire class is generic. Instead of that, we can do another work. Suppose here, these interfaces are there. Keep it there. These interfaces are there. Now, you can create a class and the class name is just database. And in this class, we can have a public, so that is connect method. This method is generic. This method is generic. And in that we have connection string, means this is the parameter. This parameter is generic. That parameter is generic. Now we have to use for var property in connection string. Connection string. We have to print console.log. We have to print the property, and we have to print its value. Value is, we have to access connection string of what? Property. Of property. Like this we need to define. This time I am not making the class generic. Why I am not making the class generic? Because I don't want all members in the class to work for same type. I want some other members which should not work for the same type. Making a class as generic will keep all the members same type. But I want a class in such a way that in that only few members will be using the type. Others are open to other types. In that case, you should not make a class as generic. You should make a method as generic. Method as generic. Entire class generic means entire memory is Oracle memory. No, only one method should be Oracle. Others should work for other situations. So that in that case, we don't design a class as generic. We design a method as generic and its parameter generic. Then same concept here. Suppose you see now LET Oracle is equal to new database. Class is not generic. But in this Oracle, when you are accessing connect method, into that we can pass I Oracle. Now automatically you can see the connection string is Oracle type. That means the parameter is Oracle type. What is the advantage of this? Is you make it possible for both kind of situations. Strongly typed for any specific, and other members can work for any another. That means it's not like everyone should have to work for the same. But you can do by making the class as generic. So here now you have to pass Oracle connection string. And it is what type? It is having multiple values now. That means obviously it is an object type. Connection string is an object type. Into that object we can pass the values. What we have to pass, you know now. Suppose I am using host. It says there is no host in Oracle connection. What is there in Oracle connection? Username. Username. We have Scott. And we have password. Password as Tiger. And we have database. Database as some EMPDB, like this. That's how we define. This time entire class is not generic. Only the method is generic. Later you can pass MySQL, similarly MongoDB. You can design others. No need to explain. You can do that. So now it is working for same situation. TSC index.ts and node index.js. That is how it works. This time class is not generic. So the method is generic. That means here another example. This is method and parameters. Parameters generic. Method and parameters generic. For that, this is an example. We have a method generic and parameter generic. Actually, in some technologies which support generic like concepts, they have a constructor also generic. Generic constructor will be there, but not in TypeScript. So we don't need to discuss that point. Generally, the technologies which support generics, they have a generic constructor, but TypeScript will not support generic constructor. Already I told you that TypeScript constructors are different. We don't have any access modifiers for them. So constructors will not have any name. Constructors cannot overload here. No constructor overloading here, and constructor cannot be generic. But some technologies which support generic like concept, they support constructor also generic. Not in TypeScript, we cannot have a generic constructor. This is one situation I explained that where generics are used. For example, I will show you another situation in real-time requirement where we use this kind of generic. This is one situation. Another situation is, suppose, so we have to actually, suppose we have to work with APIs. So you have web services and we have API services. Actually, API, later you will learn about APIs in your technologies, APIs and services. Actually, API gets the data, that means it is going to fetch the data and it is going to provide to your application. That means your application have to consume the API and use. Now, very important is this API, that means whatever the API comes, this API, usually API may come from any source, they can contain any data. That means it can be like products API, it can be like employee API, it can be like student API. We don't know, any kind of data may come. Any kind of data may come. Students data, products data, employee data. Now, we need to create a class in such a way that this class can have a method, get data. Get data is a method. This method should work for any kind of data. It should work for any type of data. And it should provide that to application. Now, another point is any kind of data. But once you are saying that you are working for products, it should be only for products. It should not accept any other contradictory type. That means you say products, it should be only for products. You say students, it should be only for students. That means I want a service and I want a service method in such a way that they can work for any kind of data. But once they know the data, they should not allow another type of data. How you will design a method which can work for any type of data? And how you will design a method, once it knows the type, it will work only for the type. That means here also what we have to do, generic. For example, we have an interface iProduct. And usually product have some name, string type, product have some price, number type, product have some stock, that is Boolean type, like this product details are there. And we have an interface. This interface is like employee, iEmployee, and it is having like first name, it is a string. We have like last name, that's a string. We have designation, that is a string, like that. Now what we need to do is, we need to design a service and a method in such a way that they can work for any data. Then I am creating a class called data service. And this data service class is having a method public and get data method, and this should work for any kind of data, but once it knows the data, it should work only for the data. Then we will make it as what type? Generic. And whatever data comes, it will be generic type. And whatever data comes, we will print the data. Then we will use for where property in what data. And we will print that console.log, and we need to print the property. And here we are defining. So we are defining its value. Value is data of property. So it will get that property value and display. Now I want here, I am creating LET. Suppose TV is equal to new data service. And this TV is expecting a product type data. Then TV.getData, we will mark it as iProduct. That means it is expecting only product type data. That means it will have only name. So it will have only price. So it will have, which is number type, it will have a stock, which is a Boolean type. Even you pass a different type of data, it is invalid. It will not take that type of data. So it is strongly typed for that particular. And similarly, so we have, so TV dot, that is printing, already it is printing, get data is printing. Now we will create another, suppose some John is equal to new data service, and this John get data, John.getData, it is an iEmployee type. So, and employee type, that means here it will be only first name. First name is some J and D, something like this. And we have last name, so like John. And we have the, so designation like suppose manager, like this. And I am defining this. This time you created a method in such a way that it can handle. And see, interesting here. Now this is not only accepting one details. This is not only accepting one details. Suppose a list of products is coming, means an array of products is coming. See what we can do. Suppose first we will print this and show you. That means we are using TSC index.ts. And we are using node index.js. And you can see it is printing all the details, product, employee, everything. Now, actually, this is currently working for only one, right? That means this is working for only one. But see, you can design it in such a way that it can work for different. That means TV, get data, what type? iProduct type, and it is expecting only one product. But I can make this as an array type. If I make this as an array type, this time it is not accepting one, it is expecting many. If it is expecting many, into this you know that you have to pass an array. Array of what type? Objects. Array of objects. We need to access the array of objects. And array of objects, we have name, so we have TV, so we have price, and we have price, we have stock, and that is true. Another object is, and again, we have name as some mobile, and the price, and this is the price for mobile, and we have some stock. So we have some stock is false, like this. We can add multiple. That means it is working for one product. It is working for multiple products. That means you designed the method in such a way that we can access one, we can access multiple. Earlier, We have to design one method for accessing one, another method for accessing multiple. But now you can have only one method which can work for all. So now actually the way of presenting should change now. Why? Because see, this time you are passing array now. So, and how to read the array? I am using same for in actually. For in will read like this. Because already we know that in is not good for array. So for array we have to use an off. We have to use an off for array. That means here we should not use this. So we should use off. That means we have to use a different technique here. What is it for? What is that for? Where item of what? Collection. Collection is what? Data. Data. And you can see this data so is a generic type now. That means what is the generic type we are configuring? Actually, defining the values means depending on the type. Off is used for this, but it is saying that if you are trying off operator, then I don't know the type. The off I cannot apply on generic type. That point I will tell you here. Remember one important note. Generic types actually, generic types will not support few operators. Will not support few operators. You have to use functions. They will not support operators. We have to use functions. What is meant by operators? It will not support operators. You have to depend on functions. That means for off is an operator. Off is a special operator. Off in type of these are operators. Actually, here why it is not showing that? Because as per generic concepts, you cannot use operators directly. I will tell you that. Let's take example. Then you can try this one. What is example is, suppose I am creating a function. I am creating a class demo. In this demo class, we have a public. So this is like addition. Addition is generic type. And into that A is generic type, B also generic type. And what we have to return? It should return A plus B, but it will not work. Because you cannot handle operators on generic because their type is unknown. This problem comes in various occasions. That is the problem previously happened. That means when type is unknown, certain operations they can't work. Then how to find the sum and return? We have to find the sum and return. How do you find the sum and return? For that, we have to create a function sum. It will take A as A and B. These are any type. They are ready to accept any type. That means A can be what type? Any. B also can be any. Now what it should return? It should return A plus B. And this sum you have to use here. And into that we can pass AB. That is the way. You cannot directly handle operations on generic type because their type is unknown. Then what we have to do? We have to define a function. Through the function we have to handle the operation. Now tell me which function is used to read all the elements in an array. Which function is used to read all the elements in an array? What do you say? You learned array functions in JavaScript, no? Which array function you can use to read all the elements from an array? We have a map. array have map, array have filter, array have find, array have join, array have toString. These are all the array methods for reading the values from an array. And a filter, by using a condition, it will access. Find will return only one. Join will return all separated with any delimiter. ToString will return all separated with commas. And map is an iterator. It will return every element in array. These are general array methods, functions. When you are working with generics, these type of options you have to use. That means what we do in your previous example, you try that example. In the previous example, we have data. On that, you can apply map. Map uses a callback function. That means what it will do, it will read every value and it will return the value. That means you have to print the value, console.log, whatever the value. That is the technique of using maps. These kind of options are required actually. That means now you see we have to print it. That means let. So obj is equal to new demo. And in that obj dot addition, into that we will pass a number. Then automatically A and B are number type. And it will get those and display. And this is returning. Then we will put in console.log. We have to print those details. We have to print the addition of those two numbers. Then it will print it. That you can try by using this. That's how it works. Usually generics will not allow to use directly operators. You have to depend on methods. This you can try for previous example. You try that map option and use. If you are unable to do, then I will tell you. You know already, you learned array methods, you can try them. So technically, generic, I showed you various options. That means where generics are used in real time. What are generic classes, what are generic methods, and generic properties, and generic parameters. Anything can be generic type, right? That is basically a concept of how we can use generics. Next, one more important concept here is in TypeScript, you have to know about enumerations. I hope you learned already in your java.net. Enumeration is, what is it? Enums, na? What is enumeration? Enumeration, enum is a collection of related type of it is a collection of constants. Enum is a collection of constants. It's a collection of constants. Constants means, so constants are initialized with the value and cannot be assigned. They are initialized with value and they cannot be assigned. That means fixed set of values. Generally, where in real time we use these enumerations. Actually, here so many things are there. In TypeScript, enum can be a collection of number, string, and expression. It can be a collection of string, number, and expression. Enums will not allow other types. Enum will allow only a string or a number or an expression. So in real world scenarios where we use enums, generally standard set of constants, they will never change. For example, see, I will give one example here. Suppose I am creating here where or var let anything. So now is equal to mfd. Mfd, okay, is any type, and it is a new date, manufactured date. You know, in JavaScript, dates are created in this way. And if you want to store any specific date, you have to put that in a quotes as a string type. And in which format you have to enter? Year, month, day. 2022 month is suppose some 5 and 20. Year, month, day. You have to do that. Generally, that is how we store dates in JavaScript. Here in TypeScript, data type is defined as any. I already told you, any type is used for object, array, date, regular expressions and all. Now, how to print the date? I want in which weekday it manufactured. That means I will use console.log and I will say weekday. On which weekday it manufactured. I want to access that. On which weekday it manufactured, I want to access. Then how to access the weekday? You know, date functions are there. Get hours, get minutes, get seconds. These are all JavaScript date functions. We will use manufactured mfd dot get day, which returns weekday number. All date functions are numbers. Weekday, month. Which month manufactured? That means I will use /n month. Which month manufactured? I will just use here mfd dot get month. Get month will get the month number. Weekday number starts with 0. 0 is Sunday. Month starts with 0. 0 is January. Right? Now, due to this, the output will be in not a correct format. You see tsc index.ts and node index.js, and you can see it is 5.4. So it is not in a proper way. Then we have to present in a proper way. Now, how we can do that? How we can present in a proper way? So what we can do is, we need to maintain a list of weekdays and months. And they are constant, standard. They will not change. They will never change. Then what we do is, we simply configure like this. That means we can simply define like this. What is it? We will create an enum. Enum name is weekdays. And in this weekdays enum, enumeration, it's an enumeration. In that, we have to give the enum name. Enum name is Sunday. Is equal to, in that we have 0. That is the value. Because date, week numbers starts with 0. And Sunday is 0. And remember, enum can contain, this is the key and this is the value. Value can be number type, value can be string type, or value can be an expression. Value cannot be Boolean type. Even expression also cannot be Boolean type. That means here, currently I am using enum. And see here, one specialty is, if you are using number constants have the ability to automatically implement. Based on previous value, they automatically implement. For example, I given the next value Monday, so Tuesday and Wednesday, right? So Wednesday, so Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Like this, I am just using fast, like right. Saturday, like this, I am giving like this. Now, important is the value of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be 1, 2, 3. Even if you don't define the first one, by default it will take as 0. Suppose this is 0 and automatically it will print 0. You access Sunday, it will print 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, it will take. For example, you mark Sunday as 101, automatically Monday will be 102. They will be 103, auto implementation. And for example, so suppose Tuesday is 203, then Wednesday will be 204 based on previous value. That means, so Monday will be 102, and here you assigned a value, it will use that value. And the other values, if value is not mentioned, they will continue the previous. They will continue the previous. That is the option. And if there is no value mentioned at the top, it will start with 0. This is only for numbers. Only for numbers, auto implementation is possible. In an enum, you can store string also. In an enum, you can store string also. That means what you can do, Sunday, you can mention here. Sunday, you can mention here as SUN. Then automatically all errors. Why? Because auto implementation for string will not happen. Auto implementation happens only for numbers. But remember, enum can have both combination of number and string. You can give Monday is equal to 1. It will be okay. Others will be taken as 2, 3, 4. But if there is a string, after a string, you cannot automatically implement. So you have to use only numeric. So you can have string, you can have number. Many times people give a wrong definition. Don't try that. That means many times people say that enum is a collection of numeric constants. No, enum is not a collection of numeric constants. It is a collection of numbers, string, assorted with both number and string, and expressions. Expression also can be there. I will show you that. Here, now how to use this enum? It's very simple. Actually, when you access weekdays.sunday, it will return 0. But I don't want to return value. I want to return the key. That means generally you can access the value from an enum. But if you can access the key from a value, that is called reverse mapping. In many interviews, they ask this question, what is reverse mapping of enum? A reverse mapping of enum is a technique of accessing the key by using the reference of value. Right? Generally, we access value with reference of key. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are keys. But accessing key with reference of value is reverse mapping. How you do that? Generally simple. Actually, see what get day is doing. It is returning day number. Now what I will do here is I will use enum. Enum is weekdays. Into that square brace, I will pass that number. That means it will be weekdays of 0 or weekdays of 1, 2, 3. Based on that, it will access its key name. It will access its key name. This is reverse mapping of enum. Then you can see it can return. It can return that value. You can see it can return that Friday based on what you have defined. If I am not passing any value, you know that it will return the current date. Am I right? If I don't pass any date, then it will return the current date. Then in that case, it have to return the current weekday. So it should return the current weekday and it will return the current weekday. And if I want to access the month, the same, that means I need to create another enum. This is for months. And here we have, so January, so Feb, so March, so April, so May, so June, so like July, like this, like August, all these we have to define. And I'm just stopping here. You have to add all of them. That means now here, again, the same reverse mapping technique we use here. What we do, we use months of that get month number. This is going to return so that enum and display. That means we are accessing the keys with reference of values. That's how we do. This is the concept basically working with an enum, right? How we configure and use the enum. And if it is numeric constant, it will be auto implemented. If it is string, we have to initialize every value. You can have a combination of number string. You can have a combination of expression also. For example, see here, I am creating an enum. So, and say the math. So math E. Suppose I given like, because math is already a JavaScript object, I am using math E. And here I am defining the option like A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 20 and C is equal to A plus B. That is enum. In many interviews, they ask a question for Angular people like, so which operator is not supported in enum? Generally, enum contains what type of values? Enum can contain what type of values? Number, string, expression. That means the result of this expression is what? A plus B. What is the result of this expression? Number. That means it is valid. Suppose if I say A greater than B, it is not valid because it is not number, it returns a boolean. Enum can be only number or string, and expression means expression that returns a number or string. That means boolean expressions, any expression that returns number and string is valid. Any operator that returns a number and string is valid. So other operators are not valid. So because it returns only this, you can print that for example, console.log, I am printing C is equal to, so math E dot C. Here we are accessing the value with reference of key. I am accessing that value with reference of key. And you can see it is accessing that with reference of key. That expression also can be there in an enum. Right? So enum can have the numbers and string and expressions. That is another example for that. Usual. That is general concept of working with enums, constants, right? Collection of constants. This is basically how the TypeScript related important concepts work. And this is enough for our Angular. So what you learned in TypeScript, that is enough for now dealing with Angular. Now all this knowledge we have to implement in Angular. Right, from Monday we will see that. From Monday we will start understanding and learning with the Angular now. Okay, this all you have to use in Angular. Whatever we learn, we will see that step by step. Monday we will continue. Right, in Monday we will start Angulars. Okay, right.